There are moments in life that don't make sense at first. People you trusted, people you thought would always be there, suddenly become distant or disappear completely. And what makes it harder is not just their absence, it's the questions they leave behind. You start wondering what you did wrong, replaying conversations, analyzing every detail, trying to find a reason that explains the shift. Because when someone important walks out of your life, it rarely feels like a clean ending. It feels unfinished. It feels confusing, and deep down it feels personal. But what if the reason they left isn't rooted in your failure, but in God's intervention? What if what feels like rejection is actually protection in disguise? One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people are seasonal. They come with a purpose, they play a role, and when that role is complete, they leave. The problem is, we get attached to the role they played, and we try to extend it beyond its time. We hold on longer than we should because we're afraid of what letting go means. But God sees what we can't see. He knows the full picture, the future, the hidden intentions, the paths that are forming ahead of you. And sometimes the very person you're trying to keep is the one who would have taken you somewhere you were never meant to go. There are also moments when God removes people because they are interfering with your growth. Not always in obvious ways, not always through conflict or betrayal, but subtly. Their presence keeps you comfortable when you're supposed to be evolving. Their mindset limits your vision when you're supposed to be expanding. And without realizing it, you begin to adapt to an environment that no longer aligns with who you're becoming. Growth often requires discomfort, and sometimes that discomfort comes in the form of separation. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet drifting apart that you can't quite explain. What makes this process painful is that you can still care about someone who is no longer meant to be part of your journey. Love doesn't automatically disappear just because purpose has changed, and that's where the tension comes in. You feel the pull to hold on, but at the same time, something inside you knows that things are not the same anymore. That internal conflict is real, but it's also a signal. It's a sign that something is shifting, that God is doing something beneath the surface that you may not fully understand yet. Sometimes God removes people because they can't go where He is taking you. The next level of your life requires a different mindset, a different level of discipline, a different kind of focus. And not everyone is willing or able to grow in that direction. If they stayed, they might unintentionally pull you back into old patterns, old habits, old ways of thinking. And while it might feel harsh, God is not trying to isolate you. He's trying to align you. He's making sure that the environment around you matches the calling on your life. There are also situations where God removes people for your protection. This is one of the hardest ones to see in the moment, because protection doesn't always look like something good. It often looks like loss. But just because you don't see the danger doesn't mean it isn't there. God can see conversations that haven't happened yet, decisions that haven't been made yet, consequences that haven't unfolded yet. And in His mercy, He steps in early. He closes doors before they lead you somewhere painful. He removes people before their influence causes damage you can't undo. Right in the middle of this, I want to pause for a second. If this message is speaking to you, take a moment to like and subscribe. Not just for the channel, but because you're choosing to feed your mind with truth during a time when your emotions might be pulling you in every direction. And that matters more than you realize. Another reason God removes people is to bring you closer to Him. Sometimes we rely so heavily on certain relationships that we unintentionally replace God with people. We look to them for validation, for direction, for comfort, instead of turning to God. And when those people are gone, it creates a space that feels empty at first, but that space is not meant to stay empty. It's meant to be filled with something deeper. It's an invitation to reconnect, to rebuild your dependence on God instead of on human support that can change or disappear. There are also times when God removes people to reveal something to you. Maybe it's something about them that you didn't see before. Maybe it's something about yourself, your boundaries, your patterns, your tolerance for things that you shouldn't tolerate. Separation has a way of bringing clarity. When you step back from a situation, you begin to see it differently. The emotions settle, the noise fades, and what was once confusing starts to make sense. You begin to recognize things you overlooked, things you ignored, things that were always there but never fully acknowledged. It's also important to understand that removal is not always punishment, it's often redirection. Just because something ended doesn't mean it failed. Some relationships accomplish exactly what they were meant to accomplish, even if they don't last forever. They teach you something, they shape you, they prepare you for what's next. And once that purpose is fulfilled, holding on doesn't add value, it creates resistance. God is not taking something good away from you without reason. He's making room for something that aligns better with where your life is going. And yes, there will be moments when it still hurts. Even when you understand the reason, even when you can see the bigger picture, the emotional side doesn't just disappear. You might miss them. You might think about what could have been. You might have days where it feels heavier than others. That doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're human. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning how to move forward without being controlled by what you've lost. Over time, you'll start to notice something changing. The same situation that once felt like a loss begins to feel like a release. The weight you were carrying starts to lift. The confusion turns into clarity, and the silence that once felt empty starts to feel peaceful. You begin to understand that what God removed was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to free you. Free you from what you couldn't see, from what you couldn't let go of on your own, from what would have held you back in ways you might never have realized. There's also a quiet confidence that begins to grow in you when you trust God through this process. You stop chasing explanations. You stop needing closure from people who can't give it to you. And instead you find a different kind of closure, the kind that comes from trusting that God knows what He's doing, even when you don't. That kind of peace is not loud. It doesn't demand attention, but it's steady. It stays with you, even on the days when things feel uncertain. And maybe the most important thing to remember is this: God is not just removing people, He's repositioning you. He's guiding you toward environments, relationships, and opportunities that align with your purpose. And sometimes the only way to get you there is to clear out what no longer fits. It's not always easy. It's not always comfortable, but it is intentional. So if you're in a season where people are leaving, where relationships are changing, where things feel uncertain, don't rush to label it as loss. Give yourself time to see what God is doing. Trust that there is a reason, even if it's not clear yet. Because one day, You might look back and realize that what you were trying so hard to hold on to was the very thing God was trying to release you from. And when that realization comes, it changes everything. You stop seeing the ending as something that happened to you, and you start seeing it as something that happened for you, not in a way that dismisses the pain, but in a way that gives it purpose. And when pain has purpose, it becomes something you can grow through, not just something you have to get over. God doesn't remove people randomly. He moves with intention, with awareness, with a perspective that goes far beyond what we can see in the moment. And even when it feels confusing, even when it feels unfair, there is something deeper unfolding, something that is shaping you, protecting you, and preparing you for what's ahead. So instead of asking, why did they leave? Maybe the better question is, what is God making room for? Because sometimes the greatest blessings in your life require space, and that space can only be created when certain people are no longer part of the picture. Trust that. Even when it's hard,